Hello, horror listeners. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button for the channel. Also, make sure to tell us in the comments how you like the story and from where you are watching or listening. If you want to hear any specific story, feel free to request it. Now let's begin the story. I was 12 the first time I realized that nights don't always end the way you expect them to. Friday nights, when you're a kid, are a kind of freedom no one really warns you you'll miss someday. No alarm clock screaming at dawn, no teachers waiting with pop quizzes, just junk food, laughter, video games, and the thrill of knowing you can stay awake as long as your body can handle. For me, that freedom always meant sleepovers. My best friend back then was Jason Miller. We met in second grade at Maplewood Elementary in a little suburban town outside of Columbus, Ohio. By the time middle school rolled around, we were inseparable. He was taller, louder, more fearless than me. Jason was the kind of kid everyone wanted to sit with at lunch. His family had a two-story colonial house on a cul-de-sac where all the neighborhood kids gathered for pickup basketball or water balloon fights. But what really set Jason's house apart was his basement. If you've ever been 12, you know basements are complicated. They're either places you avoid at all costs, the dark, creaky kind that smell like mildew, or they're gold mines of adventure. Jason's basement was the second kind. It wasn't just finished. It was practically designed for kids. A giant open floor plan, soft carpet, a pool table, dartboard, air hockey table, a flat screen TV, shelves stacked with board games, and a little kitchenette with a fridge his mom always stocked with soda. In the far back corner, there was a laundry room with a heavy white door. I didn't think much about that door at first. None of us did. That November night started like any other. It was the start of a long weekend, and my mom dropped me off at the Millers around 7. I still remember the bite of the cold air when I climbed out of the car, the way my breath hung in little clouds under the streetlight. Their house glowed with warm yellow light. Wreath already hung on the front door, even though Thanksgiving was still weeks away. Jason flung the door open before I even knocked. "Took you long enough," he grinned, his sandy blonde hair sticking up like he just rolled out of bed. I rolled my eyes. "Relax, I'm here." Inside, his golden retriever, Max, bounded toward me, nails clicking against the hardwood. Mrs. Miller's voice floated from the kitchen. "Pizza's on the way, boys." Jason smirked. Perfect timing. 2 other kids were already downstairs, Ryan Thompson and Luke Carter, both in our grade. Ryan was the funny one, always telling jokes that made Jason laugh so hard he nearly choked. Luke was quieter, more into video games than anything else. Together, the 4 of us were like a little pack. The basement buzzed with noise. Video game gunfire from the TV, music humming low from Jason's Bluetooth speaker, laughter echoing off the walls. We ate pizza until our stomachs hurt, washed it down with too much soda, and sprawled across beanbags and couches. "Tomorrow we're going to the park, right?" Ryan asked between mouthfuls of pepperoni. "Yeah," Jason nodded. "Basketball in the morning. Movie in the afternoon. Whole weekend's planned. Man, this is the life," Luke muttered, half asleep already. We all laughed. It was one of those nights where everything felt safe, where the world outside didn't even exist. Around 11, Ryan passed out first, claiming the beanbag by the TV. Luke wasn't far behind, curling under a blanket on the couch. That left Jason and me still wired, controllers in hand, locked in a heated game. "You ever notice how creepy that laundry room looks at night?" Jason said suddenly. I followed his gaze to the far corner. The laundry room door was cracked open, just a sliver of blackness cutting into the warm glow of the basement lights. "Thanks for that," I muttered. "I'm serious," Jason said, lowering his voice. "Sometimes at night I hear stuff from there. Like banging. Or scratching," I snorted. "Probably the dryer." "Yeah, that's what my dad says too," Jason admitted, but his eyes lingered on the door. We tried to ignore it, but it hung there in the back of my mind, a black crack in an otherwise perfect night. By midnight, even Jason was tired. He stretched, yawned, and tossed a blanket over himself on the couch across from Luke. I took the big couch by the bar, closest to the laundry room. Big mistake. I don't know how long I was asleep before I woke. At first, I didn't realize why. The room was dark, the TV off, everyone silent. For a second, I thought maybe I'd had a dream. But then I noticed it. The air felt different, colder, still. And then came the sound. Click. A soft metallic snap. Like a dryer door shutting. I froze. My heart thudded so hard I was sure it would wake the others. Slowly I sat up. The laundry room door, which I could have sworn Jason shut earlier, was open wider now. A slice of blackness stared back at me. "Jason," I whispered. No answer. I swung my legs off the couch, feet sinking into the carpet. My throat was dry, palms damp. I told myself it had to be Jason screwing with me. That was exactly the kind of thing he'd do. "Very funny," I muttered, inching closer. "You're not scaring me." The knob felt cold under my hand. I took a breath, counted to 3, and yanked the door open. Light spilled in as I flicked the switch. The laundry room was empty. I laughed nervously, shaking my head. Just my imagination. Then I saw it. Through the dryer's round glass door, distorted by the curved glass, a face stared back at me. Not Jason. Not anyone I knew. A man. He was curled inside the dryer, like a grotesque doll. Knees to his chest, face pale and stretched in a grin that didn't belong to a sane person. His eyes were wide, unblinking, fixed on me. For a second I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then his lips moved, a whisper muffled by the glass. "Shh." I screamed so loud it ripped my throat raw. Spun, slammed into the bar stool, bolted for the stairs. "Jason, wake up!" I shrieked. Lights flicked on upstairs. Doors opened. Mr. and Mrs. Miller stumbled into the hall. Jason appeared too, hair messy from sleep, eyes confused. "What the hell's going on?" Mr. Miller barked. "There's a man," I gasped, pointing downstairs. "In the dryer! There's a man in the dryer!" Before anyone could react, a blur shot past us. Dark clothes, long strides, out the front door. Mrs. Miller screamed. Mr. Miller lunged after him in slippers, but the man vanished into the night. The cops came. Searched the house, the yard, the whole street. Nothing. All I could say was he wore dark clothes. No clear face. Just those eyes, that smile. We never had another sleepover. Not at Jason's. Not anywhere. Years passed, but some nights, when I wake in the dark, I swear I hear it. That soft metallic click. And when I close my eyes, I see his face again, grinning at me through the glass, like he knows something I don't. Like maybe that night wasn't the last time. Story 2. I remember that night like it's etched into my skin. It was January of 2015, the kind of winter in northern Minnesota where the cold doesn't just bite, it gnaws. Our town, Maple Hollow, was small enough that everybody knew which house still had Christmas lights up even though the holidays had passed. Snow crusted the sidewalks in jagged ridges, and the lake behind our street had frozen solid weeks before. My name is Ivy Carter, and I was 13 the night everything happened. Back then, sleepovers were sacred. Friday nights meant no school alarms, no nagging about math homework, just junk food, movies, and the kind of laughter that makes your stomach hurt. My best friend Haley Brooks had invited me, along with our other friend Zoe Martin, to her place for the weekend. Her parents were gone on a ski trip in Wisconsin, so her older brother Dylan, 20, and her sister Rachel, 17, were in charge. We thought it would be fun. We thought it would be safe. The snow squeaked under my boots as Dad dropped me off at the Brooks house. Their place sat at the edge of town, a 2-story home with pine trees lining the backyard like sentries. Warm light glowed from the windows, and the smell of wood smoke drifted from the chimney. It looked inviting. Normal. Haley yanked open the door before I even knocked. "You brought the good chips, right?" she asked, tugging me inside. I rolled my eyes, lifting the bag of Cool Ranch Doritos like a prize. "Of course. What kind of friend do you think I am?" Zoe was already sprawled on the couch, flipping through Netflix. "They've got all the horror movies lined up," she said. "I vote we scare Ivy until she cries." "Rude," I muttered, dropping my backpack near the stairs. Rachel walked in from the kitchen, holding a mixing bowl. Her blonde hair was pulled into a messy bun, and flour streaked her hoodie. "Relax, babies," she said with a smirk. "I'm making brownies." You'll survive the night. Dylan came through the front door just then, carrying grocery bags with snacks and soda. The cold followed him inside, his breath still fogging in the air. "You're lucky I love you guys," he said, setting the bags on the counter. I had to fight 2 soccer moms over the last box of Gushers. We laughed. It felt easy. Familiar. The living room glowed with the soft twinkle of leftover Christmas lights Rachel had refused to take down. The house smelled like cocoa and wood, and outside the window, snowflakes drifted lazily under the yellow porch light. We curled up in blankets, pizza boxes stacked high, sodas fizzing on the coffee table. For a while, everything was perfect. It must have been close to 10 p.m. when I first noticed it. We were halfway through a dumb comedy movie, Zoe laughing so hard she snorted when I heard a faint noise, like something brushing against the siding of the house, a scratching. I paused mid-sip of my Sprite. "Hey," I said, "do you guys hear that?" Haley frowned. "Hear what?" "That scratching sound. Like..." Outside, Zoe leaned forward, muting the TV. We all went quiet. At first there was nothing, just the hum of the furnace and the wind outside. Then scratch, scratch, slow, deliberate, like nails dragging wood. Rachel popped her head in from the kitchen. "It's probably a tree branch. Don't start freaking yourselves out." But the weird part was, the trees were all in the backyard. Nothing touched the side of the house. Dylan set down his slice of pizza. "I'll check it out." "Don't bother," Rachel said. "Seriously, you'll just scare the kids." But Dylan was already pulling on his boots. I stood and followed him to the door, my curiosity louder than my nerves. The night air slapped me in the face as he stepped out onto the porch. The snow glowed under the porch light, untouched except for his fresh boot prints. Nothing, just quiet. He shrugged, flashing me a grin. "See? Nothing but raccoons." "You're jumpy," I tried to laugh it off, but my stomach felt tight. We went back inside, and for a while it was fine. But around midnight, as we switched to a horror movie, the sound came back. Louder this time. Not outside. Inside. From above. Haley muted the movie instantly. We all sat frozen. Scratch. Pause. Scratch. Scratch. Directly over our heads. "The attic," Zoe whispered. Rachel laughed nervously. "Mice! It's an old house. We get them sometimes." But Dylan's jaw tightened. "That's not mice." Before anyone could stop him, he grabbed the pull string in the hallway and unfolded the narrow attic ladder. The wooden steps creaked as they lowered. A rush of cold air drifted down, smelling faintly of dust and something sour. "I'll check it," he said. "Don't," Rachel hissed, grabbing his arm. "It's fine. If it's a raccoon, I'll chase it out." We crowded in the hallway, my bare feet freezing on the hardwood. Dylan climbed slowly, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Boxes, old Christmas decorations, a trunk in the corner. Silence. "Nothing here," he called down. We all exhaled, until something moved behind him. A shadow, quick and deliberate, then a heavy thud. Dylan cursed, stumbling. "Dylan!" Rachel cried. "I'm fine," he shouted back. "Just knocked something over." But his voice sounded strained. And then, from the dark above, came a sound I'll never forget. A low, drawn-out chuckle. Panic rippled through us. Dylan scrambled back down, face pale. "There's someone up there." Before we could react, the front door slammed shut. We spun toward it. The lock clicked. Rachel grabbed the knob and twisted. "Dylan, did you lock this?" "No," he snapped. "I didn't touch it." The lights flickered once, twice, then died. The TV cut off. The furnace stopped. The Christmas lights went dark. We were swallowed in blackness. Zoe's voice broke the silence, trembling. This isn't funny." Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the attic, and a voice, deep, calm, too calm. "Ivy, Haley, Zoe, Rachel, Dylan." He said our names, all of them. "Basement." "Now," Dylan whispered, shoving us toward the stairs. We stumbled down, the dogs barking furiously from below. The basement was colder, damper, shadows stretching across the concrete. We shoved a dresser against the door of the first bedroom, hearts pounding. Rachel tried her phone. No signal, no Wi-Fi, nothing. The footsteps creaked above us, moving through the house, then stopped. The voice again, cheerful, almost sing-song. "I brought treats." Candy canes. Zoe muffled a sob with her sleeve. Rachel mouthed, Don't make a sound. The footsteps moved closer. Then the basement door at the top of the stairs groaned open. The hinges screamed. The dogs lunged at the noise, growling, teeth bared. We held our breath. Then, the pounding started. The basement bedroom door shook violently, wood cracking under each blow. "Let me in," the man snarled now, voice twisted with rage. "Don't make me hurt the little one." Haley squeezed my hand so hard it went numb. Glass shattered. One of the small basement windows broke inward, shards scattering across the floor. A hand reached in, fumbling for the latch. Before he could open it, one of the dogs lunged, teeth sinking deep into his arm. The man screamed, a guttural animal sound. Blood splattered the wall. Dylan grabbed a broken broom handle, swinging it with everything he had. Rachel yanked Zoe and me toward the stairs, screaming for us to run. Chaos. Barking, screaming, the sound of fists against wood. I don't remember how we made it out. Just snow under my bare feet. The sting of air slicing my lungs as we bolted across the yard. Headlights cut through the night. Neighbors woken by the noise, already calling 911. When police swarmed the house minutes later, they dragged him out bleeding, snarling, eyes wide like an animal. His name was Matthew Kerrigan, 45 years old. No fixed address. A record of breaking and entering, stalking, assault. He'd been living in the attic for days, maybe weeks. They found blankets, wrappers, water bottles. And carved into one of the beams, in jagged letters, "I will be back." I'm 23 now. We moved out of Maple Hollow in 2018. The Brooks family left too. But sometimes when the wind rattles the windows of my apartment, I hear it again. That slow, deliberate scratching. And I wonder, did Matthew really mean it when he carved those words? Because his sentence was 12 years, and that was 10 years ago. Story 3. I still remember the night like it was burned into my skin, stitched into my bones in a way that no amount of years can erase. Even now, more than a decade later, I wake up some nights with my heart slamming against my ribs, sweat soaking my shirt, hearing a voice that isn't there whispering through the dark. Back then, I was only 10 years old, 5th grade, still young enough to believe the world was mostly safe, but old enough to pretend I wasn't afraid of anything. My name is Ryan Carter. I grew up in a small town in northern Pennsylvania, a place where everyone knew each other's dogs by name, where the winters were long and the nights even longer. Willow Creek wasn't the kind of place where bad things happened. At least that's what my parents always told me. That Friday night in November of 2011 started out like any other. The air outside was sharp, the kind that made your breath puff out in little clouds, and the trees along our street had lost most of their leaves, their bare branches scratching at the sky. Inside, though, it was warm. My mom made homemade pizza rolls and root beer floats, and I was buzzing with excitement because my best friend Tyler Brooks was coming over to spend the night. Tyler wasn't like me. I was quiet, careful, the kind of kid who double-knotted his shoelaces and thought twice before doing anything. Tyler was the opposite. Reckless, always chasing fun, always daring me to do the things I swore I never would. We'd been inseparable since 2nd grade, though, and whenever he was around, I felt braver than I really was. When he showed up that night with his backpack slung over his shoulder, his blonde hair sticking out from under his beanie, I already knew trouble was coming. He had that grin on his face, the one that always meant he was up to something. "Your mom actually made pizza rolls?" he asked, dropping his bag with a thud. "Yeah, don't eat them all this time," I shot back. "No promises," he laughed, grabbing 2 right off the plate. We played Xbox for a while, racing cars, shouting at the screen, my mom yelling from the kitchen to keep it down. Then we sprawled out in the living room, scrolling through Netflix. Tyler, of course, wanted to watch a horror movie. "Dude, it's a sleepover." "That's like the law," he said. "I hate horror movies," I muttered. "That's the point." We finally settled on some low-budget ghost flick, the kind where the shadows moved a little too obviously and the jump scares were predictable. Halfway through, Tyler got bored. He always did. He tossed a pillow at me and sat up, eyes glinting in the glow of the TV. "You know that old farmhouse? The one on Hollow Pine Road?" he asked suddenly. My stomach tightened. Everyone in town knew about that place, the old Wexler farmhouse. It had been abandoned for years, sagging into the earth like it was rotting alive. People whispered stories about it at school, that a drifter had been squatting there, that strange lights flickered in the windows, that kids who went inside heard voices in the walls. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Let's go," Tyler said, grinning. "Are you insane? It's like 10 o'clock. My mom will kill me." "She's already asleep," Tyler said. "And your dad's on the night shift, right?" "No one's gonna know. We'll take our bikes, be back in an hour." Every part of me screamed no. But Tyler had this way of making me feel like if I backed down, I'd be less than I wanted to be. He didn't even have to say the words. Just the way he looked at me was enough. Within minutes, we were sneaking out the back door, our breath visible in the freezing air. The street was silent. The house is dark. We hopped on our bikes and pedaled down toward Hollow Pine Road, flashlights rattling in our hands. The further we rode, the quieter everything got. Houses gave way to empty fields, the road cracked and uneven, the night pressing in heavy. My stomach churned with every push of the pedals. "There it is," Tyler whispered when the silhouette appeared in the distance. The farmhouse crouched at the end of a gravel drive, its windows like hollow eyes, the roof sagging, ivy crawling up the walls like veins. Next to it was a detached barn, its doors crooked, one side caved in. We ditched our bikes near the road. My flashlight beam shook in my hand as we crept closer. "Looks worse up close," I whispered. "Awesome, you mean?" Tyler grinned. The front door groaned when he pushed it open, a sound that made my skin crawl. The smell hit us immediately, thick, sour, like something rotten mixed with damp wood. "God, that's disgusting," I gagged. "Probably a raccoon," Tyler shrugged. Inside, the air was heavy, stale, like it had been trapped for decades. Our flashlights cut tunnels of light through the dark, catching on peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, a tattered couch slumped against the wall. Then I saw it. On the coffee table, coated in dust except for one spot, sat a single sheet of paper. The handwriting was jagged, hurried. "Back soon? Don't forget the knives." My chest tightened. The ink wasn't faded. It was fresh. "Tyler," I whispered, my voice shaking. "Someone's here." He frowned but forced a laugh. "Probably just some kids messing around." That's when we heard it. A metallic clang from outside, like something heavy striking steel. I froze. "You heard that, right?" Tyler swallowed. "Yeah, probably the wind." "There is no wind," I hissed. Before we could argue, another sound split the night. A scream. Not just any scream. A man's scream, raw and terrified, cut off too suddenly. We bolted to the window. That's when I saw him. A man in a mask. Not a Halloween mask. A clown mask. He was dragging something across the dirt. Something limp. A body. My breath caught in my throat. Tyler's face drained of color. The man dragged the body toward the barn. When the doors creaked open, light spilled out. Yellow, unnatural. Inside, shapes gleamed. Saws, cleavers, chains, hooks. A metal table in the center, stained dark. The clown laid the body down and picked up a knife. He started cutting like it was nothing but meat. I slapped a hand over my mouth to stop the scream clawing up my throat. My legs felt like water. "Call someone," Tyler hissed, fumbling for his phone. We dialed 911 with shaking hands, whispering into the receiver, praying the dispatcher could hear us. "Stay hidden," she said. "Units are on the way." "Do not make a sound." We crept upstairs looking for somewhere to hide. Every step creaked too loud. We found a room with a window, thinking maybe, if we had to, we could jump. Then came the voice. "Come out, come out," the clown sang, his tone playful. "Wrong. I've got toys for you." The words slid through the house like snakes. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Something sharp dragged across our door. My skin prickled. Tyler shoved at the window, but it creaked loudly. Too late. The knob twisted. The door slammed open. The clown lunged. I didn't think. I just dove through the window. Glass shattered around me. Pain exploded in my arm when I hit the ground, but fear drowned it out. I scrambled to my feet and ran toward the flashing blue lights pulling up the road. Footsteps thundered behind me. I glanced back. He was chasing me, knife raised, mask grinning in the dark. A gunshot cracked the air. The clown screamed, dropped to the ground, clutching his leg. Another officer dragged someone else out of the barn. Another clown, another mask. Tyler stumbled out after them, pale, shaking, but alive. The farmhouse wasn't haunted. It was worse. It was a slaughterhouse. A cult, hiding in plain sight, luring people, carving them up, selling what was left on the black market. That slab of meat on the counter? Human. The men got life sentences. The farmhouse was demolished years later, but the nightmares stayed. Sometimes, late at night, I swear I can still hear it. That voice crawling through the dark. Come out, come out! I've got toys for you. Story 4. I still remember the night like it happened yesterday, even though it's been years. Some memories don't fade. They stick to you like scars you can't see but always feel. I was 15 that summer, living in a quiet town called Ashwood, Pennsylvania. It wasn't the kind of place you heard about on the news. Nothing big ever really happened there. At least that's what we thought. People left their doors unlocked. Kids rode bikes until the streetlights flicked on, and everyone kind of knew everyone else. That night should have been ordinary. A sleepover pizza, video games, bad jokes, maybe a scary movie or two before crashing out on the floor. Nothing extraordinary. But looking back, I know that was the night my childhood ended. The whole thing started earlier that week. My best friend since grade school. Noah Campbell texted me Monday night, parents out all weekend. You in for Friday? I didn't need convincing. Sleepovers at Noah's house were legendary. He had this old 2-story colonial at the edge of town, not far from a stretch of woods that people said went on for miles. His parents were both nurses who sometimes worked overnight shifts, which meant Noah had the run of the place. His basement was basically paradise for 2 teenagers. Old TV sagging couch, every console under the sun, and a mini fridge stocked with sodas. To us, it felt like freedom. Noah and I weren't just casual friends. We'd known each other since 2nd grade. Back when I just moved to Ashwood from Pittsburgh, I was the awkward new kid, quiet and shy, and Noah was the one who plopped down next to me at lunch and said, "You like dinosaurs?" That was it, instant best friends. We did everything together. Little League science fairs, biking the trails by the creek. By 15, people used to joke that if you saw one of us, the other wasn't far behind. So of course I said yes. I didn't know it at the time, but that yes would change everything. The sun was dipping low, painting the sky gold, when I pedaled my bike the 4 blocks to Noah's place. I still remember the air that evening, warm with a hint of cut grass, kids laughing faintly somewhere down the block, the bark of a dog echoing in the distance. Everything felt normal, safe. Noah was waiting at the back door when I rolled up, grinning wide, a can of Dr. Pepper in hand. "Dude, you made it," he said, bumping my fist. "Epic night incoming." "You stock the junk food?" I asked. Like you even have to ask, the house felt different without his parents. Quieter, emptier. There was this heavy stillness to it, like the walls themselves knew no adults were around. We dumped my backpack in his room upstairs and headed down to the basement, the real headquarters. The coffee table was a war zone of chips, candy bars, and soda cans. The controllers were tangled like snakes, and Noah already had Call of Duty booted up. We played for hours, shouting, laughing, trash-talking. My cheeks hurt from grinning so much. After a while, we switched to an old superhero movie, slouched on the couch with greasy chip bags crumpled around us. But as always with Noah, sitting still never lasted long. "Dude," he whispered suddenly, leaning closer. "Let's do prank calls," I groaned. "Really? That's like peak middle school energy." "Exactly," he grinned. "Peak fun." He pulled out his phone and started dialing random pizza places, asking for the weirdest stuff. Sushi rolls, goat cheese ice cream. I nearly spit soda across the room from laughing. Then he shoved the phone at me. "Your turn." I rolled my eyes, grabbed the phone, and dialed at random. First number, no answer. Second, straight to voicemail. Third, some old woman who scolded me before hanging up. I was about to hand the phone back when the 4th call connected. "Yeah." That was all the man said. Not hello. Not who's this. Just one word, deep and rough, like gravel scraping across concrete. It startled me. I fumbled for something stupid to say. Uh, Hi. Do you mind if I borrow a wheel from your car? Noah nearly fell off the couch laughing, clutching his stomach. I tried to hold back my own giggles. Then the man's voice came again. What's your name, kid? I froze. Uh, Bob? I stammered. There was silence. Then, you sure it's not Noah? The laughter died in my throat. My skin went cold. I turned to Noah. His face had gone pale. What the hell? I whispered. How does he... Noah started, but I hung up before he could finish. My hands were shaking. Who was that? I don't know, Noah stammered. My number doesn't even show up as mine. It shows my dad's name on caller ID. How would he know my name? We stared at each other. Neither of us had an answer. We tried to shake it off, pretending it was just some freak coincidence. An hour passed, and the tension started to fade. The superhero movie played in the background, the glow flickering across the basement walls. That's when we heard it, a soft creak from upstairs. Noah muted the TV instantly. We both froze. Another sound followed, the groan of the front storm door. Then the faint rattle of the knob on the main door. Someone was trying to get in. Noah's face drained of color. He killed the basement lights, and we crouched low in the shadows. I crept to the small window near the ceiling and tilted the blinds. Outside, under the porch light, a man stood. He was tall, broad-shouldered. No jacket, even though the night had turned chilly. His head moved slowly, until his eyes locked directly on mine. I dropped the blinds so fast they slapped against the glass. He saw me, I whispered. What do we do? Noah's voice trembled. Before I could answer, we heard the creak of the side gate. The backyard, I hissed. The back door. Did you lock it? Noah's eyes widened. I don't remember. I sprinted up the stairs, heart hammering so hard I thought it might split my ribs. The hallway stretched like a tunnel. At the end was the back door, glass panel glowing faintly from the outside light. And there, silhouetted, was the man. He didn't move, just stood there, watching. Then the handle turned, slowly, carefully. The door opened. I bolted back downstairs so fast I nearly tripped. He's inside, I hissed. Noah's eyes were wild. We scrambled upstairs into his room and slid under the bed, yanking the dust ruffle down. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. The footsteps started. Slow, heavy, room to room. A door creaking open, then shut. The deliberate rhythm of someone searching. The stairs groaned as he came up. I pressed my hand over Noah's mouth, his breath too loud. The bedroom door opened. The closet door slid. Hangers scraped. Footsteps moved closer to the bed. They stopped. For a moment, silence. Then, hands yanked Noah out by his ankles. He screamed, clawing at the carpet. I reacted on instinct, grabbing the nightstand drawer and ripping it open. My hand closed around a small pocket knife. I lunged, stabbing the man's back. He roared in pain, dropping Noah and spinning toward me. Run! I screamed. We flew down the stairs, out the back door, across the yard, straight into the woods. Branches whipped our faces, roots snagged our shoes, but we didn't stop. The night swallowed us whole. Finally, we collapsed behind a thick bush, gasping. For a moment, the only sound was our breathing. Then came the crunch of footsteps, heavy, steady, getting closer. We pressed ourselves into the dirt, hearts pounding. The footsteps stopped just a few feet away. Then they turned, moved off. We waited until silence returned, then sprinted back to the house, locking every door, every window. This time we called the police. While Noah was on the phone, I flicked on the backyard light and froze. At the tree line just beyond the reach of the light, he stood, watching. Then he melted into the darkness. The police searched but found nothing. No footprints, no signs of forced entry. Just silence. Noah never got another strange call. I never saw that man again. It's been 5 years now. I'm 20. I live in a different city. But sometimes when the night is quiet and the air feels heavy, I swear I can hear those footsteps again. And I wonder, if I hadn't grabbed that knife, if we hadn't hidden fast enough, would we still be here? Story 5. I never thought turning 13 would feel like this. I imagined laughter, junk food, whispered secrets, the kind of night that you look back on when you're older and think, yeah, that was perfect. But that night didn't go the way I planned. Back then, in the summer of 2014, my world felt small but safe. I lived in a quiet town called Maplewood, Pennsylvania. Our house was a plain one-story ranch at the edge of a cul-de-sac, where the biggest excitement usually came from kids riding bikes or the ice cream truck jingling down the street. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. For my 13th birthday, I wanted something simple, a sleepover. No big party hall, no DJ, no ridiculous decorations, just me and a few close friends. I'd been buzzing with excitement for days, making lists, planning snacks, making sure my mom didn't embarrass me too badly in front of everyone. By late afternoon that Saturday, everything was perfect. Mom had driven us into town for pizza and shopping earlier that day. My friends Lena, Maya, Chloe, and Harper tagged along. Lena was my best friend since 3rd grade, practically family by now. The others were good friends too, though it was their first time spending the night at my place. I wanted them to leave thinking, wow, that was the best sleepover ever. When we got home, Dad was outside at the grill, flipping burgers, the smell of charcoal drifting into the warm summer air. Mom had baked me a chocolate cake, my favorite, and even let us decorate it with sprinkles and messy lettering. We ate until we were stuffed, laughing at dumb jokes, snapping goofy photos on Lena's phone. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of pink and gold. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Inside, we turned the living room into our kingdom. Sleeping bags, blankets, and pillows covered the carpet. A fortress of snacks, chips, soda, gummy worms took over the coffee table. A stack of DVDs sat by the TV. We kicked things off with Legally Blonde, then Clueless, then, at Lena's insistence, Mean Girls. By the time credits rolled on the 3rd movie, it was past 1 a.m. The room was lit only by the soft blue glow of the TV. Outside, the neighborhood was dead quiet, the old lampposts casting dim halos on the street. That strange stillness had settled in, the kind where every sound feels louder because the world has gone silent. I stretched. Okay, that's it for movies. My eyes are about to fall out. Liar, Harper teased, tossing a pillow at me. You'd binge like 3 more if we let you. We all laughed, though I was honestly exhausted. Sleepovers weren't about sleeping, though. They were about whispering into the night, about silly games and inside jokes. The main lights were off, just a lamp glowing faintly in the corner, because Lena hated total darkness. We sprawled across the floor, gossiping, telling embarrassing stories, playing those dumb hypothetical games. What would you do if zombies attacked right now? I'd survive for sure, Chloe declared, sitting up dramatically. I run cross-country. You guys would be toast. Excuse me, Maya shot back, grabbing a chip. I do gymnastics. I'd literally backflip over a zombie. Right, Lena snorted. You'd trip on your own ego and be the first to go. We dissolved into laughter, and that's when it happened. Knock, one sharp, deliberate rap against the big front window. The laughter died instantly. Every head snapped toward the sound. For a second, I thought maybe it was something from the TV, except it had been off for 10 minutes. Then came another sound, slower this time. A dragging noise like fingers trailing across glass. What was that? Harper whispered, her voice thin. Probably nothing, Chloe said quickly. Like a tree branch or something. There aren't any trees near that window, Lena muttered. I tried to laugh, though my chest was tight. Relax, you guys. My dad does this stuff sometimes. He loves scaring me when I have friends over. That explanation seemed to ease them a little. Dad was a prankster, always pulling dumb stunts. This had his fingerprints all over it, right? We went back to whispering, though the mood had shifted. Everyone was jumpy, every creak of the house suddenly magnified. I was in the middle of telling a dumb story when it came again. Bang, bang. 2 hard knocks rattled the glass. Amber screamed. Chloe yanked her sleeping bag up over her face. Lena muttered a curse. Dad! I yelled toward the window, my voice cracking. Seriously, knock it off! Silence. No footsteps running away. No laugh. Just suffocating quiet. A cold chill crawled up my spine. If it was Dad, he would have said something by now. I stood on shaky legs and crept toward the window. The curtains were thick, but a sliver of moonlight leaked through. I reached out, heart pounding, and pulled the fabric back just enough to peek outside. That's when I saw him. Not my dad. Not anyone I knew. A man, inches from the glass. His face tilted up, catching the porch light. Bald head, thin, patchy eyebrows, a gap where a tooth should have been. His eyes wide, glassy, like he hadn't slept in days. I gasped so hard it hurt, yanking the curtain shut and stumbling back. "It's not my dad," I choked out. It's some guy." The room exploded. "What?" Lena shrieked. "Call your parents," Chloe cried. Oh my God, Harper repeated like a mantra. I bolted upstairs, nearly tripping in my socks. My parents' bedroom door was cracked open. Inside, Mom was already at the window, speaking to someone outside. "Mom," I gasped. "There's a guy." "I know," she said sharply, holding up a hand. Her voice was calm but tight. The man's voice floated in, strange and sing-song. "Have you seen him? Have you seen Daniel?" "Where's Daniel? Is he here?" "Daniel? I didn't know any Daniel." Mom's voice was steady. "Sir, I don't know who you're talking about. You need to leave." But he kept repeating, louder, faster. "Where's Daniel? Where's Daniel? I know he's here. I saw him." Mom's tone hardened. "You need to go now. You're scaring my children." He didn't answer, just shifted on his feet, twitchy, restless. Then, without warning, he turned and wandered down the driveway, disappearing into the shadows. Mom locked the doors. Dad grabbed the phone and called the police. They promised to send a cruiser through the neighborhood. I went back downstairs trying to calm my friends, but the fear lingered like smoke. We put on another movie for background noise, but every creak made us flinch. 20 minutes later, Mom decided to take the car and circle the block, just to be sure. She pulled out, headlights slicing through the dark. The street was eerily quiet, those old lamps barely lighting the cracked pavement. Halfway around the block, she spotted movement, a figure darting across the road. She slowed, thinking it was a kid. Then the man stepped into her headlights, grinning, and he jumped in front of the car. Mom slammed the brakes, tires screaming. He froze, lit up in the beams, eyes wild. And then he bolted into the woods. By the time she got home, shaking, the police still hadn't shown up. We never saw him again. The cops said he was probably drunk, high, or just confused, but I still see his face when I close my eyes. That gap-toothed grin, those sleepless eyes. And I wonder what would have happened if I'd opened the window, or if he'd found Daniel. Story 6, I never thought a simple sleepover could leave a mark that would follow me for the rest of my life. Back then, I was 16, old enough to feel like the world was opening up, but still young enough to believe that nothing truly bad could happen to me. Life was simple in those days. Classes, friends, long bus rides home, texting until my phone overheated, and worrying about crushes who barely knew I existed. Fear to me meant failing a math quiz or saying something embarrassing in front of the wrong crowd. Real fear, the kind that grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go, was something I thought only existed in movies. I was wrong. I grew up in a town called Maplewood, Pennsylvania, the kind of quiet suburb where the loudest thing at night was the crickets in summer or the snowplows in winter. My best friends were Rachel Miller and Kayla Brooks. Rachel was the funny one, loud, quick-witted, always with a sarcastic comeback. Kayla was more reserved but brave in ways I wasn't. She'd speak her mind even when it got her in trouble. Me? I was somewhere in the middle, the glue between them. That Friday night in late October, we had planned a sleepover at Rachel's house. It was the first weekend after midterms, and we were exhausted. Everyone else at school was going to big parties, bonfires, football games, the kind of stuff I never really fit into. We just wanted to eat junk food, laugh too loud, and maybe scare ourselves silly with some horror movies. Rachel's house sat at the far end of Willow Creek Road, where the neighborhood met the edge of a stretch of thick woods. Her dad was an architect, her mom a real estate agent, so the place was modern, big and full of windows that looked out into the trees, beautiful in daylight, different at night. Her parents were away, her mom at a weekend real estate conference in Pittsburgh, her dad on a project trip in Boston. That left the house to us, along with her 8-year-old brother Evan, who Rachel promised would be asleep early. That's where it all began. By 7, Kayla and I had hauled our overnight bags up the wide driveway. The porch light glowed warm, the air was crisp with fallen leaves, and the house loomed in that way only big houses do when you're 16. Rachel swung open the door. "Finally, you guys took forever," she teased, stepping aside. "Kayla made us stop at Sheets," I said, holding up a plastic bag full of candy and chips. Kayla smirked. "Hey, someone has to provide the good snacks. Your house is all kale chips and protein bars," Rachel rolled her eyes. "Don't remind me. Mom's trying this new thing where sugar is poison. Whatever. Tonight, sugar is life." We kicked off our shoes, ran upstairs, and claimed the giant sectional couch in the living room, draping it in blankets like a fortress. Evan appeared briefly in his Spider-Man pajamas, demanding that Rachel paint his nails like Iron Man. We humored him, painted them red, and sent him to bed by 8. By the time the house was quiet, we were halfway through our first horror movie, an old slasher Rachel had found on streaming. The kind where the killer lurks outside windows and the victims make every dumb decision possible. "Seriously, who goes outside after hearing a noise?" Kayla muttered, tossing popcorn into her mouth. "That's the point," Rachel said, grinning. "You're supposed to scream at them." I laughed. "If this happened to us, we'd actually be smart. We'd lock the doors, stay together, call the cops." Rachel pointed her soda at me. "Exactly. Real life isn't a movie," I believed her. Around 9:30, just as the killer on screen made his 4th ridiculous jump scare, a sound tore through the room, a high-pitched, shrill screech that made us all jolt upright. The house alarm. Rachel groaned, grabbing the remote to mute the TV. "Ugh, this stupid system. It does that sometimes," Kayla frowned. "Your alarm just goes off?" "Yeah," Rachel said, patting barefoot to the wall-mounted keypad. "Dad says it's too sensitive. Probably a deer or raccoon." I pulled the blanket tighter around me. "Deer set off your alarm?" Rachel shrugged. "Don't ask me. He calibrated it himself. Half the time it's nothing." She punched in the code and the alarm silenced, leaving a heavy quiet in its wake. "See? No big deal." But my heart was still racing. The alarm hadn't been a gentle beep. It had been a full-on warning scream, the kind you only expect to hear when someone is forcing their way inside. We tried to laugh it off, diving back into the movie, but I couldn't stop glancing at the big windows that looked out into the yard. The glass seemed thinner somehow. 10 minutes later, it happened again. The alarm wailed so loud my ears rang. We all jumped, popcorn flying everywhere. Rachel cursed under her breath and stormed to the panel. "Okay, what the hell?" she muttered, scanning the screen. Kayla and I crowded behind her. The display glowed with the words, "Motion detected, pool entrance." For a moment, none of us spoke. "Could be a raccoon," Kayla whispered. Rachel shook her head slowly. "No, Dad set it to ignore animals. It only goes off if it detects something human-sized." The words sank into me like ice water. Rachel forced a laugh, though her voice shook. "Glitch. Has to be. I'll reset it." While she fiddled with the keypad, I found myself drifting toward the upstairs balcony. Something in me needed to see for myself. The backyard stretched below, the pool glowing faint blue under the water lights. Beyond that, the woods pressed close, black and endless. For a moment, everything was still. Then, click. The floodlights around the pool burst to life. I froze. They were motion activated. Something had moved down there. "Guys!" My voice cracked as I backed away from the railing. "The lights just..." The alarm screamed again, cutting me off. Rachel and Kayla ran upstairs. Rachel's face was pale. "That's it. I'm shutting the whole thing off. Screw this system." We killed every light in the house and huddled in the kitchen downstairs. Panic does strange things. None of us thought to grab our phones at first. We just sat there listening to the silence, every nerve stretched thin. Then, thud. Something slammed against the front door. Hard. Evan, now awake and crying, buried his face in Rachel's hoodie. "Stay here," Rachel whispered, trying to sound brave as she led him toward the keypad. That left Kayla and me alone in the kitchen, staring at the glass back door, the one with the blinds half open. That's when we heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching against the gravel just outside. Kayla's nails dug into my arm. My breath caught in my throat. The footsteps stopped right outside the door. A shadow fell across the blinds. Then, a flashlight beam exploded into the room, blinding us. We froze, silent. The light lingered, mocking, before sweeping away. A crash sounded from the front door. Not one person, two. For what felt like hours but was only minutes, they circled the house, pounding on doors, rattling window handles, scraping at the glass, laughing, low, cruel laughs that sent shivers down my spine. We huddled in the pantry, clutching each other, Evan whimpering softly. I swear I heard whispering outside, voices that weren't frantic or angry, but eager, enjoying the game. And then, silence. Just like that, it stopped. We stayed awake until dawn, too terrified to move. When Rachel's mom came home the next morning, we poured out the whole story. She was furious we hadn't called the cops sooner, but by then it didn't matter. The police came, walked the property, and found what we already knew. Footprints, large, heavy ones. Marks on the doors, as though someone had kicked them. "Probably just some guys casing houses," the officer said. "Happens a lot near the woods." But I knew. They weren't trying to steal. They wanted in. I never slept at Rachel's again. For weeks, I woke up in the middle of the night, convinced I'd hear glass shattering, convinced that flashlight would sweep across my face again. Rachel insisted it was nothing, a near miss, a story to laugh about someday. Kayla tried to act tough, but I saw the way her hands trembled when she passed dark windows. Me? I learned something that night. The scariest part of horror isn't the monster jumping out or the killer with the knife. It's the silence after the footsteps stop. It's knowing someone was there, knowing they were watching, knowing they wanted you, and knowing they might come back. Story 7. I never thought a single night from childhood would still crawl into my thoughts decades later, but here I am, 30 years old, lying awake at 2 a.m., replaying every detail. What makes it worse is that I hadn't thought about it for years, 15 years, maybe more. It stayed buried, like some dusty old box shoved into the attic of memory. But all it took was one question from my wife last week to pull the cord and make the reel spin again. "What was your best friend like when you were kids?" she asked. It sounded harmless enough. We were curled up on the couch, the kind of quiet Sunday night where the TV flickers more than it entertains. I laughed at first, telling her about late-night bike rides, about how we used to prank call pizza places, about building ridiculous haunted houses out of old sheets and flashlights in the garage. My friend's name was Tyler, and back then, he felt more like a brother than just a buddy. But as I tried to describe him, smart, funny, always a little too paranoid, something lodged in my chest. I remembered why that word, paranoid, stuck. That's when the memory came rushing back all at once, like ice water pouring over me. Suddenly I was 11 again, summer of 2009. I grew up in Middletown, Ohio, one of those in-between towns people drive through but rarely stop in. Too big to be cozy, too small to feel like a city. Summers dragged on there, the heat pressing against the cracked sidewalks, the smell of hot asphalt rising like steam. That August, Tyler invited me for a sleepover. He lived with his mom, Carla, in a modest blue house at the edge of a quiet neighborhood. His dad had left when he was little, so it was just the two of them most of the time. I loved going there. It felt freer than my own house. His mom worked late shifts at the hospital, which meant whole stretches of unsupervised evenings where we could eat junk food, watch whatever movies we wanted, and stay up until dawn. That Friday, my mom dropped me off just as the sun was dipping behind the trees. I had an overnight bag slung over my shoulder and a copy of Goosebumps, the haunted mask tucked inside. Tyler was already on the porch, barefoot in gym shorts, grinning like he had a secret. "You brought the book, right?" he asked before I'd even said hi. "Of course," I said, holding it up like treasure. "Yes, we'll read it later after the movie," he said, pumping his fist. We spent the first couple of hours sprawled on his bedroom floor, trading stories and talking about which Goosebumps books scared us the most. Tyler had an old boom box that played cassette tapes his uncle had given him, mystery radio shows from the 70s. The narrator's voice crackled softly, weaving tales of missing persons and haunted towns. Around 6:30, his mom poked her head in, already dressed in scrubs. "If you two want snacks, better head out now before I leave," she said, handing Tyler a $10 bill. "Split it, okay?" $10 felt like a fortune to us. "What should we get?" I whispered as soon as she was gone. "Candy, chips, maybe soda if we can afford it," Tyler said, already pulling on his sneakers. The nearest convenience store was only a 15-minute walk, past rows of quiet houses and out to the bigger road where the strip malls began. Middletown wasn't exactly bustling. People drove everywhere. Nobody really walked unless they had to. The air was heavy with heat, the kind that made every step stick to the pavement. We argued the whole way about which candy was better. He swore by chocolate bars. I defended sour gummies like my life depended on it. The store itself was nearly empty. We took forever in the aisles, stretching our $10 as far as it could go. 2 candy bars, a bag of sour worms, a bag of chips, and a bottle of orange soda. Proud of our haul, we stuffed the receipt into Tyler's pocket and stepped back into the fading light. That's when everything shifted. "Don't look now," Tyler whispered suddenly, voice low and sharp. "That guy's been watching us." I froze. "What guy?" "Behind us. Yellow hoodie. He was in the store. Didn't buy anything." My instinct was to whip my head around, but Tyler's hand clamped on my arm. "Don't. Just walk normal." My laugh came out shaky. "You think he's following us?" "Why would he?" "I don't know," Tyler muttered, but his voice cracked. We walked. The sun was lower now, the sky bruising purple at the edges. For a block, I tried to convince myself it was coincidence. People leave stores at the same time all the time. But then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, steady, matching ours. Whenever the sound of cars dipped, it was there. 1, 2, 3. Not hurried, not casual, just consistent. I risked a glance in the reflection of a shop window. A tall man, maybe mid-30s, kept pace with us. Yellow hoodie, jeans, empty hands. My stomach turned. "He's not carrying anything," I whispered. "Exactly," Tyler hissed. "He didn't buy a damn thing." We sped up. So did he. By the time we turned off the main road into Tyler's neighborhood, the streets were empty. No cars, no people. Just the squeak of our sneakers and the crunch of gravel underfoot. "Don't go straight home," Tyler whispered, his grip tightening on the bag of candy. "If he knows where I live, what do we do then?" I asked, panic rising in my throat. "Cut through the park." We turned left toward the small neighborhood park. The man turned too. That's when we broke. "Run!" Tyler barked. We bolted. The candy bag thumped against my side, the soda bottle slipping from my sweaty hand and rolling onto the pavement. I didn't even stop to grab it. Behind us, the footsteps quickened. Not running, but faster, like he knew we wouldn't get far. We zigzagged through side streets, lungs burning, until I thought we'd lost him. Then I saw it. At the end of the block, under a streetlight, the yellow hoodie, just standing there, watching. Tyler yanked me into a row of hedges. We crouched low, hearts hammering. For what felt like forever, there was silence. Then came the sound, deliberate, measured footsteps, right on the other side of the hedge. Tyler clapped a hand over my mouth before I could gasp. We didn't breathe. We didn't move. Finally, the sound faded. We crept back toward his street, every shadow looking sharper than the last. By the time his blue house came into view, the porch light glowing, we sprinted the last block and slammed the door shut behind us. His mom was gone for her shift. The house was too quiet. "What happened?" I asked, my voice shaking. Tyler swallowed hard. "We don't talk about it. Just don't." That night, we didn't watch the movie. We didn't read Goosebumps. We just sat on his bed, the untouched candy between us, listening for any sound outside. Sometime after midnight, I got up to use the bathroom. Passing by his bedroom window, I froze. Under the weak glow of the streetlight, a figure in a yellow hoodie stood at the corner. Not moving, not walking, just standing there, facing the house. I blinked, and he was gone. Or maybe he had stepped back into the dark. I never told Tyler what I saw. We never spoke of that night again. Now as an adult, I wonder if he really left when we thought he did. If maybe he stood there for hours, memorizing the house, the street, the window where two scared kids peered out. I wonder what would have happened if Tyler hadn't noticed him first. And sometimes when I walk alone at night, I swear I hear footsteps. Slow, steady, deliberate, matching mine. Matching. Story 8. I was 9 years old the summer we moved into the house on Willow Creek Road. The summer, everything started to feel different, heavier somehow. Childhood up until then had felt safe, almost boring in its predictability. But that year, life cracked open in ways I wasn't ready for. My mom had just divorced my dad, and for the first time I could see the exhaustion written across her face like permanent ink. She tried to smile, tried to make it sound like an adventure when she said, "It'll just be the three of us now." A fresh start. But I wasn't dumb. I knew we weren't moving because we wanted to. We were moving because we had to. The house was small, old, and crooked in ways you didn't notice at first. The floors leaned like they were tired of holding themselves up. The kitchen cabinets smelled faintly of mildew, no matter how much lemon cleaner Mom sprayed. And the doors, none of them ever shut properly. They'd click halfway but never latch. My older sister called it the shack, though never when Mom could hear. Mom was proud of that house. To her, it was survival. To us, it was the strangest place we'd ever lived. I shared a tiny bedroom with my sister, Madison. She was 13 at the time, 4 years older than me, which meant she thought she was practically an adult. We had bunk beds shoved against the wall, and she naturally claimed the top bunk. "Because I'm older, and older kids don't sleep on the floor," she'd said, rolling her eyes at my protests. What made the place bearable was the backyard. It was bigger than any yard we'd ever had before, with patchy grass that felt like straw under your feet and a rickety deck built around an above-ground pool. The pool was half green with algae when we arrived, but to two kids it still looked like paradise. Even better, the whole yard was boxed in by a tall wooden privacy fence. Madison said it made the place feel like a cage. I thought it made it feel like our own world. And that's where I first noticed the boys next door. They lived in a nicer two-story house that sat at an angle from ours. You couldn't see their place straight on, only from the corner of the fence where two loose planks bowed outward just enough for me to climb and peek. That's where I met Jason and Tyler, brothers. Jason was 11, a grade above me, and Tyler was Madison's age. They were loud, funny, the kind of kids who always had grass stains on their knees. Before long, climbing the fence to talk with them became my daily ritual. It was during one of those backyard talks that I first saw him. His name was Craig. He was Jason and Tyler's uncle, though at the time I couldn't tell you his exact age. Late 20s maybe, early 30s. Adults all looked old to me then. He was always around, working on their lawnmower, fixing bikes, hammering something in the garage. He'd wave, toss a joke our way, ask about school. Harmless, friendly. Madison liked him. I did too at first, but even then, there were things that didn't sit right. How he always seemed to appear when we were outside. How he never talked to other adults, never had friends over. One time he tossed a basketball over the fence, by accident. When we tried to hand it back, he laughed and said, "Nah, I'll get it," before hopping the fence like it was nothing. I remember watching how easy it looked for him. Too easy. I didn't know it then, but that was just the beginning. It happened in late July. Mom had picked up a night shift at the diner where she worked. Madison and I were alone in our room, the old box fan humming in the window, blowing hot air more than cooling anything down. I was dead asleep when I woke to a sound that didn't belong. A tap. Soft. Then another. At first I thought it was a tree branch, but then I heard it, low, careful words. "Maddie." Hey, Maddie, open up. I froze. My chest went tight. Maybe I was dreaming. But then it came again, clearer. Come on, Maddie. Open the window. Madison's bunk creaked as she swung her legs down. Her eyes found mine in the dark. She pressed a finger to her lips, her face pale. She already had the cordless phone in her hand. Her voice was barely a whisper as she spoke into it. Yes, 911? Someone's outside my window. The voice outside shifted, louder now, impatient. Maddie, open the damn window. I just want to talk. And then I knew. It was Craig. The tapping turned into pounding. His fist slammed against the siding, rattling the walls. He circled the house, gravel crunching under his boots, testing the doors, the windows. His voice carried, angry, slurred. Madison locked our bedroom door and crouched on the bottom bunk with me. I clung to her arm, trying not to cry. She kept whispering into the phone, giving our address, begging them to hurry. The pounding felt endless. But by the time red and blue lights finally flashed across our walls, Craig was gone. Of course he was. All he had to do was hop the fence. When the cops knocked on his door, he denied everything. Said he'd been asleep. No proof, no arrest. Mom was furious. After that night, whenever she worked late, she sent us to stay at Grandpa's house across town. For a while, things were quiet. Too quiet. 3 years passed. I was 12. Madison was 16. She had friends over that summer. 3 girls from school. They filled the living room with the kind of chaos only teenage girls can. Board games, empty soda cans. Music turned too low because they didn't want Mom to yell. I was half asleep in my room when the scream tore through the house. I bolted upright and ran to the living room. Madison and her friends were huddled together on the couch, pale and shaking. What happened? I asked. One of the girls pointed to the sliding glass door. Her hand trembled. He was right there. I turned. The blinds were mostly closed, but one slat had been broken for weeks, leaving a thin gap. Through it, I saw him, a face pressed against the glass, watching. Craig. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then chaos exploded. Madison yanked the blinds shut. One girl grabbed the phone. Another was crying. By the time the cops arrived, Craig was gone again. Fence, darkness, silence. That was the last straw. Within a month, Mom packed us up and moved us across town. She filed for a restraining order, which the judge granted easily when Craig didn't bother to show. After that, his name became something we didn't say. I thought we were free. College, jobs, relationships. Life moved forward. I barely thought of Willow Creek anymore. Until one night, years later, I searched his name online. Craig Holloway, prison records, mugshot. Convicted, not for us, for something else, something worse. And that's when the what-ifs started clawing back. What if Madison hadn't called 911 that night? What if the sliding door lock had been broken? What if Mom hadn't moved us when she did? I think about that sometimes, too often, and I wonder how close we came to never making it out of that shack on Willow Creek at all.